Hello and welcome to today's video where we're going to talk about something really specific, the Godox V1 flash, the Godox X Pro trigger on Nikon cameras. I did a video a while ago and I've had 2 or 3 people come back to me and say, could I explain a bit more about using the flash on camera and off camera, especially with the trigger, because they were having some problems with it. I have to confess, I'm not sure what problems they're having or what could be causing them, because I'll be honest, I find it so simple. So let me just say, let's do the thing with the Z6 II. So we've got the V1. And I'll talk about it on camera first. So let me just say that, let's turn the thing on. You've got 3 modes, and let me try and show you this. I'm hoping my camera will focus. So we've got 3 modes, and if we press this right hand button here, we can cycle between the modes. So we've got this mode is for on-camera flash, but also triggering off-camera flash. The next mode is where this is a slave to be used off camera and triggered by the trigger, and then this is on camera flash. So let me just put it to something different. So if I just set this to being the slave, which is that, turn it off, pop it on the camera, turn it all back on again, it will magically change itself to being an on-camera flash. So nothing even to do in terms of changing the mode. So, and that's on TTL, of course. For on-camera flash, that's really all I use. And a wedding, there's simply not time to set things up manually. Off-camera flash, that's a different story. But on-camera flash, it's always on iTTL. One thing I'll mention is changing the exposure compensation. If you go into the menu, custom settings, bracketing and flash, exposure compensation for flash, and change that to the background only, what you can then do, if you're not aware, is if you use the exposure compensation dial on the back here and just turn the exposure down, you will darken the background and the flash will still expose your subject correctly. In theory. Remember, technology is good, but it's not perfect. And there are many times at a wedding where I'll do that. By the way, don't turn the background exposure down too far. No more than 1 stop. If you go more than a stop, so you get a really dark background, the photo is going to look like you've taken it with a flash. It's just going to not be a great photo. I typically would do 1/3 or 0.7 of a stop, no more. Sorry. Yeah, sometimes I'll do that, take a picture, check the exposure, it's perfect, do some more pictures, look at those, and 3 or 4 of them. They're not wildly incorrect exposure, but they're not perfect. Obviously can fix it in Lightroom, it's not that much out, but it just goes to show that tech isn't perfect. It does a good enough job though. And whilst we're on camera flash, just to finish off, Godox also do these little magnetic accessories, which I use on the flash. We just pop that on and pop the dome on, and if you then use that, if you turn that up and around, so that you've got this configuration here. Okay, that is what I found to give the best on-camera shots you can get. Maybe sometimes you can bounce flash off the wall behind you or wall to the side or something, but the problem with that is you've then got to make sure that you're not going to pick up colour from the wall behind you. It will use a lot more power and it will take longer to recycle. If you do it like this I find most of the time gets a pretty decent looking shot that doesn't look like you've taken it with flash, that gives you a little bit of pop in people's eyes. It just fills in the shadows and it just lifts the whole thing, gives you more contrast, gives you a better photo, very, very simply. Okay, on to using the thing off camera. So let's just explain quickly about the trigger. So just briefly explain about the trigger. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups. When you go to the flash, then you can see on the right hand side here we're in group A. I hope this is in focus. Group A, you can change that on the flash to be group B, C, D or E. If I look at my AD200, then you can see that's group B. So I've got two completely separate flashes, obviously off camera. Did I turn that off? I hope so. So simply make sure that if you're on group A there, when you come to play around with your trigger, you're playing around with group A, and that will change that flash. So we've got TTL on the button on the right hand, on the mode button. So the mode button here. So if I press the button next to the group I want to change and press the mode button over this side, we can change to manual or no flash at all. That's our only choices. In TTL, it can change the exposure compensation with the dial, and if you press the bottom left hand button, that will then send the signal to there, make that flash, and that will change that. Don't know if you can see that. That will also change that to the same setting that you just sent it from the transmitter. And that really is it, guys. I've never had a problem. I've never found that the transmitter doesn't talk to the flash. You don't need the camera. If you're having problems, just make sure they talk to each other like that. Don't put it on the camera. Just make sure they're working separately from the camera, and then when you put it on the camera, if you get problems, you can then say, well, it's definitely the camera that's causing the problem, not these two guys. As I say, I've never had a problem, and I'm just trying to think now that if you put that on the camera, what settings on the camera would be a problem. I'm just thinking, actually, one of those things could be high-speed sync. So if we put this, get rid of that again. If you put this back on, get it so you can turn it. Along the bottom here, you've got zoom, channel, sync, all, and mode. If you press the second button here, I hope you can see that. Stay on. Then the little thing will come up at the top there with an H in. So we're now on high-speed flash, high-speed sync. So you can now shoot at over 250 or 200ths or 250ths of a second, depending which camera you've got. We can shoot right up to 8,000ths of a second using high-speed sync. So that may be a problem. And I'm just trying to think of anything else that could be a problem. If we go into the flash menu on here, most of the time, almost all of the time, you're going to want fill flash. If you're looking to do some special effects, then you might use rear curtain sync, but we won't go into flash too much. So fill flash should be all you need to worry about. You can also change the exposure compensation for flash, but you can do that on the flash and on the trigger itself anyway, very simply, so there's no need to do anything on camera. You've got the flash compensation there. As you can see, I leave it at 0 and use the flash trigger or the flash itself to change the exposure compensation. So I can't think of anything else that can go wrong. If I've missed something, then by all means obviously drop me a line, and I'll take another look and maybe do another video. But It really is kind of plug and play. Very simple to use and gives great results. I love Godox. And I'm not sponsored by Godox. Thank you for watching. Cheers for now.